are live. Welcome to the 200th episode. How did we get to 200? Of Litvak Leadership Live. We've got a tremendous guest, Darrell Amy. Darrell, say hi.
Hey.
So let me tell you a little bit about Darrell before we jump into it. I'm going to read this because it's long, but it's good. Today's guest is passionate about helping companies grow revenue. He's the author of the best-selling book, Revenue Growth Engine, How to Align Sales and Marketing to Drive, Accelerate Growth. Yeah. He is the host of the Revenue Growth Podcast on C-Suite Radio Network and the co-host of Selling from the Heart podcast. He is a member of the Forbes Business Council and a C-Suite advisor. As a revenue growth strategist, Darrell gets behind the scenes, rolling up his sleeves to help company owners, sales leaders, and marketing teams build revenue growth strategies. Darrell, welcome to Litvak Leadership Live.
Great to be back. Thanks for having me in.
This is your third appearance?
I've lost count.
I would have to look. So my first question for you is that intro that I just read, and I'm going to lose the glasses. My first question is, did you write that? Or did ChatGPT write that?
That was written before I knew about ChatGPT. So that is homegrown right there, Sean.
Very good. So what is the Forbes Business Council? I've seen it talked about at different times, but I've never really dug into it.
Yeah, it's really simple. It's a group of thought leaders that Forbes recognizes as gives us the opportunity to publish on their platform.
All right.
Give us the opportunity to network with other thought leaders, which is super cool. And I've just always been a massive fan of Forbes. So when I had the opportunity to be on the Business Council, I said, absolutely, that'd be a lot of fun.
Very cool. So I start the show the same way for the most part, just like you do in your podcast, but I've got a different question. From your perspective of revenue growth, what does Matthew 6:33 have to do with that? But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be given to you. What does that have to do with revenue growth?
I think it has a lot, and it's actually in my peripheral vision right on my wall over there all day long, every day. And these are, this is at the end of the day, if you want to look at this let's look at this from a company perspective first. So many things in life, if you end up focusing on them, you spoil the whole thing. Like revenue is a scorecard, and we would say it's selling from the heart. Revenue and sales are a scorecard for your adding value to the world, for your seeking the best of your client, your prospect. So if we were to take this, and I get to talk with Larry Levine every week and thought leaders on the Selling from the Heart podcast.
Absolutely.
If we were to put this in the context of business, we might say, seek first the good of your client and your prospect and what they want to achieve. Truly be a servant, as Jesus Christ modeled for us. And the other stuff's going to come along. And I think in the context of business as well, if you look at businesses, seek first to take care of, it's great to know, Barrick, seek first to take care of your clients and love them and bring value to them, and, seek first to make the world a better place. And the rest of the stuff is going to come along. That is all in the context. I was just reading that actually in Luke this morning. And when Luke's talking about it, it's all in the context of worrying about accumulating stuff. And I think you can approach business from one of two perspectives. You can approach business from an approach of selfishness.
Right.
These are my goals. I'm going to get in business so I can hit my goals.
I'm going to close the deal. I'm going to convince the prospect to sign.
Yeah. Or you can approach it from the perspective of service. And this is what we advocate for at Selling from the Heart is, if you want all these things to be added to you, seek first the good of the other person. And then personally in my life, I would say, when I look at my purpose, I would say, because I'm a beloved son of the Father, I live to bring the kingdom with joy. by, and in my case, by helping innovative companies thrive. And
Right.
so, this is a reminder to me all day long, every day, because truthfully, if I am left to my own devices, I lean to the selfish side. I've got goals I want to achieve. I've got things I want, and I've got to be reminded all the time, don't look to that first. Look
So,
first to the kingdom, and the rest of it's going to happen.
so how did you train yourself to do that? I mean, and I'll give you the example. I was talking with someone the other day, a couple weeks ago, and they were lamenting that there were no big deals in their pipeline.
Okay.
And, they were really concerned that without the whales, what was the rest of the year going to be like?
Okay.
And I told them, you don't know what you don't know.
Hmm.
Things don't just always go A, B, C, D. You need to have faith. And I told them that, the reason I can do that, looking at my own pipeline at times where everyone's had a pipeline that looks a little anemic at times. But
Hmm.
I know that if I'm seeking God and doing to the best of my ability to do things His way, things will fall into place. But someone who is not a faith person, how do you train them through that? I'm sure you've run into that.
Yeah, look, I think there's a posture of living. There's living in fear and living in faith. There's living in anxiety and living in trust. And when we talk about faith, we have I forget who said this. It's in the Bible. We have this faith as an anchor for the soul. So if I think
Mm.
about my soul, my mind, my will, my emotions, some of
Oh,
the
I
way I
love it that you
think,
define it the way I do. That's awesome.
yeah, absolutely. Big time. I'm big into that. So the way I think, the way I choose, the way I feel, those things can bounce all over the place in any given day, week, or business quarter for all of my entrepreneur and sales friends, right? It doesn't matter if you have a full pipeline. You can have a full pipeline and then stuff goes sideways. You can have an empty
Right.
pipeline.
Well, I've been there.
And all of a sudden, boom, something happens. And, the question is, am I going to live my life by faith or by fear? And, I think it's Paul that says we have this hope as an anchor for the soul, our faith, right? So when my mind starts racing, which I think for many of us happens when you wake up in the middle of the night, right? That place to be able to say no. David in the Old Testament would say, I say to my soul, I say to my soul, be still, like
Yeah,
calm down. And so I look at that. I look at my mind and my will and my emotions, and I try to put those under the authority of my spirit every day
exactly.
because I don't want any of those to be in charge. And I've discovered in my life, if my mind's in charge, it goes nuts. If my emotions are in charge, I'm like a roller coaster.
Oh,
And if
yeah.
I'm just gutting it out from willpower, that's not sustainable either. So what I've discovered is, let's realize those things are the gifts that they are. But I tell my mind almost every day, you don't get to be in charge. My emotions, I love my emotions. I want to be fully all in experiencing everything, but you
Hmm.
don't get to be in charge. And same with
No,
my willpower. You don't get to be in charge. And
no.
so to me, that becomes that anchor. And for me, it's my relationship with Jesus, the Father, and the Holy Spirit that's the anchor. But I think for anybody, I think it's important to find something, that you can anchor yourself to, and not, be led by any part of your soul.
So I have a friend,
Well,
and
that's good.
yes, and I still call him a friend, although he refers to God as the imaginary being in the clouds, and
Hmm.
he just looks at the facts. He just
Hmm.
looks at the facts. What do you say to people like that when you are in what you do, growing revenue, being a fractional chief sales officer for organizations, coaching sales teams. Um, when people just want to look at the facts, but I'm
Hmm.
sure there's a certain faith element that you want to instill within sales teams, because attitude is almost everything in sales. How do you handle the, I just look at facts kind of person?
Well, first of all, we realize, let's just look, if you want to look at the facts, here's the facts. Over 2/3 of a decision is emotional. It's not based on the facts. And our friend Don Barden, author of one of my favorite books, A Perfect Plan, tells us something. He's a behavioral economist. He's got all the research behind this. Basically says at the end of any appointment or meeting with a prospect or client, they're going to remember, I think it's like, I don't even remember the fact. I just remember how it made me feel. And they remember like 5% of what you said. They remember 95% of how you made them feel. And so what we're talking about here is when we are working with other human beings, and guess what? If you're in business, you're working with other human beings, especially if you're in sales, definitely if you're a leader as well. It's not just the logic of all of it. It's, some of the intangibles. This is why, and I'm a facts kind of guy. This is, I am a bottom line, what's this going to do kind of guy. But I recognize that if I'm going to move a deal forward, there's got to be this sense of trust. There's got to be this sense of, hey, the facts can be the facts and the facts can be manipulated in a lot of different ways. Do I trust that you have my best interest at heart? And so this moves out of these cold, hard data points down to some levels of touchy-feely that, we may or may not want to admit are true, but they are true. In fact, for my friends who are obsessed with facts to make decisions, if we're honest, maybe it's because we're afraid of making a bad decision, which now we're back down into the heart. So to me, the journey for me has been the journey of discovering my heart, living from my heart. And as my friend and mentor, Carl, says, he said, Darrell, you're really good in your mind. You've got a lot of work to do in your heart. And he said, you can trust your heart. Yeah, I know. Ouch. Right. True. But man, he was right. Yeah. He said, look, Darrell, you can trust your heart in matters of the heart. And so not everything is a matter of the mind. A lot of things are the matter of the heart.
I almost told my favorite HR joke. Go ahead.
So this is, when we're approaching, whether it's personal relationships or business, the core premise behind selling from the heart is that you can't factor the heart out of the equation. In fact, I would say it is at the center of the equation in a business, in life, in a space where people do business with people and people are in relationship with people. The heart is always going to be important. And in our society, up until now, it's been sadly neglected, which is why we're leading a revolution of authenticity in the sales profession at selling from the heart. And I'm so thrilled to be a part of it.
Well, and in my book, Proverbs for a Leadership, when people say, what is it about? I'm like, read the subtitle. You must understand yourself and improve if you desire leadership that produces success in others. And at that point, their eyes kind of glaze over a little bit.
Right.
And I started explaining to them, look, you've got to understand yourself, figure out what's wrong with you and where you need to improve to be a better person. And then your motivation for leadership needs to be helping others and not getting them to do your bidding. Very similar to selling from the heart, not exactly the same thing, but I think they're kissing cousins. So our topic for today, which we've been kind of dancing around, and I want to ask you a direct question about it. Your clear purpose connects you with your audience. So when you're working with a team and they're having marketing and sales challenges, because if everything was butterflies and cotton candy, they probably wouldn't be having you in. You must talk to them somewhat about, Simon Sinek's Start With Why, or you've got to understand your purpose. How do you suggest that continuum should go?
I think it's the ball game in all of this. And so if you think about your company and whether you're thinking about it from the perspective of sales and marketing, or now the thing that I'm getting involved in is innovation, helping companies stand up innovation councils
Okay.
and, to find new ways to continue to grow. Both of these things are highly related to purpose. Um, if you want to grow your company, if you want to sell, the reality is you've got two or three competitors that are just as good as you, that
Hmm.
do pretty much exactly the same thing you do. If you sell a product, they have relatively the same feature set you do. And if they don't, in 6 months, they'll probably have something better than yours. Like this, we live in this world of commoditization at the level
Yes.
of the buyer.
Yeah.
And so, a buyer is sitting there looking at what's going to be the right decision for me. And by the way, that is emotional, right? Because if I'm a buyer, it doesn't matter if I'm, and if you're in B2B, it's a team of buyers, which makes it even more
Oh,
complicated.
it is
Um,
decision by committee.
yeah, it is. And that's the way it is. I think that's healthy in a lot of ways, right? Because we used to just have one person decide and then ram it down everyone's throat and nobody would buy into any. It was a train wreck. We're on the other extreme now where it is hard to get people to make decisions. But what will happen is that committee will get paralyzed until they meet somebody that is showing up with a definite purpose. And this means, purpose lives at the level of the heart as well. We've talked about selling from the heart. If you look at just in general doing business from the heart, your purpose is written on your heart. I think that's why the guy that wrote Proverbs said, I think it's in 423, above all else, guard your heart, because that's where all the good stuff flows out of, right? And
Absolutely.
so I think as a company and certainly as an individual, it's really important to start with a heart, because that's where you understand who you are. And when you understand who you are as an individual and also as a company, you're able to show up authentically. And you go, well, Darrell, why is that so important? We just need to be the best and the lowest price or whatever, that is. Well, there's a level of skepticism rampant in our world right now.
Oh, yeah.
Skepticism is at an all-time high because trust is at an all-time
All time
low.
low.
And if you look at deals right now, and Matt Dixon just wrote a book called The Jolt Effect, and I think it's really fascinating because the premise of that book was, in some industries, 2/3 of the deals are actually stuck in the pipeline, never to close. It's not that there wasn't a need identified. It's not that there wasn't, a clear business case made. It's just that nobody got enough trust built up to be able to go, okay, we can do this. Because you
Right.
see, buying decisions highly emotional. If I'm on that buying committee and I recommend a bad decision, the company could lose money, people
Right.
could lose their jobs. And the most important thing is I could lose my job, or I could lose my status, or I could lose my promotion. So you get in these B2B buying decisions, and there's a whole lot more on the line that's unstated. And unless you're able to build trust, you're in trouble. How do you build trust? Well, you better show up, with your authentic self. And I think this is where discovering your purpose as an individual and then coming together
And
and
that's where I
discovering your
was about
purpose
to
as a
go.
company, so critical in today's marketplace.
So, do you um, advocate when you're working with teams and groups that individuals need to do some individual work to understand their own purpose and how it meshes with the purpose of the organization? I mean, I once heard it said that there's a lot of plumbers who should have been preachers, and there's a lot of preachers who should have been plumbers.
Mhm.
Meaning that, people didn't understand their purpose and they ended up in the wrong place. How do you, when you're working with a team, coach the team so the individual does the work they need to understand their purpose so they can be a better team player?
Well, first of all, I just want to start by saying there's no silver bullet on this. And I just clocked over 50,000 miles personally. And I feel like I've been working on this for the last 5 decades. And in some ways, some of these things are just now coming into focus. So a lot of people, I think, just kind of give up when it comes to purpose and all of that. It takes a lot of self-reflection. And so two things that have been super helpful to me in terms of my purpose. One is understanding my values. And so I go through an exercise, and this is my daily journal right here. In the left side of this journal every morning, I handwrite it because that like cements it in my brain. But I write out my values every single day. And what I've been discovering, I've been doing this for years now. I write up I have 6 core values. I've honed them down. I know they're good. I know they're right because they all start with the same letter, which makes my alliteration heart very happy. But what has happened to me is I've honed down these 6 values: innovation, inspiration, integrity, investment, intention, all leading to impact. Now I'm beginning, as I write these things down day after day, now year after year, and I've just kind of chiseled them away and, honed them and defined them and thought about them every single day. That's helping me understand my purpose. And in fact, well, I'll share where that's leading. But the other thing that was a massive fast track to discovering my purpose came out of an organization called the Why Institute. And what the Why Institute did is we're all familiar with Simon Sinek, Start With Why.
Yeah.
They came up with an assessment that allows you to get clarity on your why very quickly. And they've done research. They figured out that there's 9 core whys. And so when I took that YOS.
Wait. Okay, hold it. What do you mean there's 9 core whys?
Well, this is going to get above my pay grade. So you need to have Dan Dominguez on your show here soon.
Okay.
Shout out to Dan, because he'll explain this and he'll probably untangle the knot I tie here in just a few minutes. But there's 9 core purposes. Think of them as column headers, if you will.
Okay.
And my why, I believe that I make the world a better place by creating a better way. My why is a better way. So I take this YOS, it's kind of like your Y operating system, just like you have the operating iOS for your phone. Pretty clever branding. Tip of the hat to the folks at the Y Institute. I take my YOS and boom, all of a sudden it's saying that my why, my purpose is to create a better way. Now, I look at my core values. I don't know if you remember my first core value. It's innovation. So I've got like 2 very powerful signposts going. Innovation is one of my core values. It's always at the top of my list when I write it out. And I've got a better way. So that tells me something about my purpose. And, it is guiding the direction of my life. When I wrote Revenue Growth Engine, I think that this is a better way to drive revenue growth inside a company. So I came up with a model. I'm an innovator, right? I'm not the smartest guy in sales and marketing out there. They've got shelves full of books by very smart people. But what I'm able to do is I was able to see a model, right? We create a model called the Revenue Growth Engine. And by the way, if you want one of these, go to revenuegrowthengine.com, and we've got the audiobook available right now at no charge for your audience. But I see the Revenue Growth Engine. I go innovation. Then I meet Larry Levine, and I'm intrigued. You heard the story a couple episodes back of how Larry and I became friends. And now I've got we could create a better way to sell, because the way that we're selling right now isn't working. So we'll create a better way to sell. And then not only did we create a better way to sell, I also looked at this and said the way we're delivering sales training isn't working. So innovate a better way to deliver sales training. And it's our innovative approach is working really, really well. And so I look now at where, I'm in a shift in my focus and career right now. And I just came to this conclusion very recently, Sean, but it happened through this daily exercise of writing out my values and a vision for my life. And I recognize that There's a lot of things, like probably most people listening in here, we're good at a lot of things. I know, over 5 decades, I've accumulated a lot of knowledge and a lot of skills about a lot of things. But there's one thing that lights my heart on fire. And there's one thing that I'm really good at, and that happens to be innovation. I like going into a room with a blank whiteboard and a problem, going, let's figure it
Yeah.
out together. And so what's happening is I'm discovering my personal purpose. It's beginning to shift my vocation, and my vocation now is we're in the early stages of following Jim Collins' advice and Good to Great, and Vern Harnish's advice and scaling up, and helping companies stand up innovation councils where we take the most innovative people in the company along with the founder and sit in a room and go, okay, what can we do to make this thing better, a better way? And so I think this journey of purpose, and is a lifelong journey for me. It's kind of like it just clicked into another level, and it all came out of just daily boring writing out my 6 core values and
So,
having that YOS.
so, you know, I'm not a stupid guy, but there's some things that are simple, and sometimes some of the simplest things elude
Hmm.
me. And I went through the training that you and Larry offered about the, daily. We each have a daily pattern, and you
Hmm.
you guys had a meeting about how to, you shared your daily pattern, and
Hmm.
I sat down to write out my values,
Hmm.
and I came to the realization that they were very nebulous.
Hmm.
And so, think Star Trek in a nebula. They're there. You just got to find them. So I got them down, I think, to 7 values because I like the number 7.
Okay.
And but they're all sentences.
That's
You've
okay.
got them down to 1 word each. How did you do that?
This happened over time. I mean, this has happened over years and years of
Okay.
doing this. So I think it's okay. And I've added some and taken them off my list. And I have 6. I actually have a 7th. I may just adopt that. And I thought 6 was a lot, but 7 is a nice number. I have a last I word that is a core value for me. It's incarnation. And
Okay.
and so I may add that to the list tomorrow. I may add that tomorrow. But I mean, what I'm doing is, like, rather than trying to go up on a mountain and having some, experience where I come back and go, here are my values, I'm letting them bubble up out of my heart and doing that on a daily basis. And so over the last decade, those core values have really started to bubble up, and I could probably narrow it down to a few less. But I had noticed that what's always at the top of the list when I write them out, and I don't write them in the same order every day. What's always at the top of the list is innovation, because I love that. I love innovation. And what's always at the bottom of the list is impact, because I want my life to make an impact. I want to make a difference in what I do. So, and interestingly, everything in between those values seem to be, to me, defining what that path is going to look like, by being inspired, living it with integrity, a whole heart, by investing, by being intentional. So that this isn't something that just magically happened. It happened over years. And
Right.
so I think inside that, whatever daily habit any of us adopt, to me, the habit of writing out my values, whether it's a word, a sentence, or a paragraph, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that, in essence, you are connecting with and trying to pull out of your heart, the identity, and I believe personally the desires that God put in your heart when He created you as a unique, son or daughter of the King.
So when you talk about innovation,
Hmm.
bringing innovation to our topic of your clear purpose connects you with your audience.
Mm.
How do you think? So, 2 questions. One, how do you think innovation can it change someone's purpose, or is it more to support your purpose if you've actually figured out your purpose?
Yeah, great question. And I would say it would probably be the second. If you've discovered your purpose, and what I love doing is I love coming alongside entrepreneurs, established companies that are out there making a difference in the world. There's a lot of things you can do with your business, and there's a lot of different types of businesses out there, and they're all important in various ways. What I love in particular is I like finding businesses that are saying, okay, we're going to figure out how to solve the problem of insert problem, right? We're going to figure out how to tackle this thing and make the world a better place. And I like working with businesses like that. It's part of my innovation bent. I like hanging around with other innovative businesses and entrepreneurs. And so, does that, but ultimately, if you think about, I met a really cool company in Atlanta a couple months ago, and I'll just give a shout out to the company at Liveful, Livful, and the founder. That company, the co-founder, had been affected as a child by malaria and had gone into some horrific treatments. And as I know the story, basically the premise was, when I grow up, we're going to figure out how to solve this problem. Well, guess what? They've figured out how to solve the problem, and they're bringing it to market right now. And you go, okay, that's awesome. There's someone with purpose, right? They have a definite purpose. Now, by the way, Napoleon Hill, and if you hung out with Larry very much, you heard about Napoleon Hill, hired by Andrew Carnegie to unpack, what the titans of the last century all had in common. And the number one thing on that list is definite purpose. They had a definite purpose. And so I think it's important. I've danced all around this question, and we've probably forgotten what the question is now. But, if you think about innovation happens after like you've got a company, someone said, I want to figure out how to solve the problem of malaria. Well, guess what? Time to get innovative, time to figure it out. And that happens at the level of products. It happens at so many different levels. When you look at innovation around revenue, there's a whole other discussion. It's not just creating better products, but that's where, I look at organizations that are doing incredible things in the world, and I go, I want to see these people thrive. So how can I bring my gift of innovation with the goal of creating impact? See, looking at these organizations that are doing great things, they're having an impact. I want to come alongside and help them thrive. So this has really narrowed my focus down. And it is incredibly helpful because there's a lot of things you can do with your time. And if you don't know, here's the problem about not having a purpose. If you don't have a purpose, have clear definition of your purpose, someone else will create one for you.
Well, and when you don't have a clear definition of your purpose, I know my challenge was when I did not have a clear definition of my purpose, I would say yes to too many things.
Bingo.
Oh, that sounds, yes, I can engage in that. Yes, I'll take on that project. Yes, I'll do that. And you need to look at, I believe, everything you are putting your hands to and say, is this going to add to and support my purpose, or is this going to detract, subtract time from achieving my purpose?
That's right. And so let's take this to a company level and tie this through to growing your company, which is where we're trying to head on this. So,
sure.
And I want to use, for an example, I want to use this Liveful company. They have a beautiful mission of creating innovation for the part of the world. It's interesting. You look at the world, 10% of the world makes less than $2 a day. Extreme poverty.
Amazing.
10% of the world makes, it's true though. 10% of the world makes more than $60 a day. That's us.
Right.
And 80% of the world makes between $2 and $60 a day. It happens to be about 5.4 billion people. But here's the interesting thing. Most of the innovation, where do you think most of the innovation, R&D and all of that goes to?
So where does the
Where's R&D spend go to? It goes to us. because we got money, right?
And then once it's figured out, it goes to the people making $2 a day
maybe,
to produce what we have figured out.
But through charity or different things. But if you think about it, what's happened in the earth right now, which is really a travesty, is you think of healthcare innovation, for example. Companies innovate to the point where they're like, hey, we can sell this to hospitals and get drug companies to pay for it. Done innovating. What if, and this was a premise of Liveful, what if someone could push through to the next level and go, how do we figure out how to not only make this thing work, but to make this thing affordable and scalable and deliverable? Well, that's awesome. That's an incredible purpose, to bring innovative health solutions to the rest of the world, to the 5.4 billion people who are out there, and if, someone would just take the time to push things a little bit further past, the level of, and ask the question, not how do we make the most money from this, but how do we make the most impact? Those companies are going to do really well. And so I look at that and go, here's a company. This is a beautiful example. Their purpose is to bring real health solutions to the 80% of the world.
Wow.
Okay. So their values drive their target market, which drives their purpose, and it defines everything that they do. And, I've seen, you can look up thousands of healthcare companies that are trying to create products to sell to us here in the West. And you see this one shining star, and there may be more, but I just happen to know these people, and I have mad respect for a company that says we're going to figure out how to innovate because we know our values and we know our purpose. And we also believe that if we seek first the kingdom, all the other stuff's going to be added to us. And so I go, that's awesome. I love that. I'm on board with that.
Oh, yeah.
How can I help? Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for Simon Sinek, it's all about why. For Darrell Amy, it's all about what is the purpose. You see, this was why I picked this topic for you. I knew you would be passionate about it. So to answer Tim's question.
Hey, wait. You just got to pause. I can't upstage Simon Sinek. I have mad respect for Start With Why. But I think that the P word and why, purpose and why, are very, very closely associated. And I think your why, maybe if there's an equation, your why plus a clear understanding of your values helps drive you to your purpose. And I would add identity in there. And that's a whole other subset of this. So we got a question.
The question was link to the free book. So they should just go to revenuegrowthengine.com.
That's right. You'll see it right up there in the menu. I think you can put in /book if you want to type that in, but it's on the homepage. It's in the menu as well. You can listen to the audiobook for free, and the book is available on Amazon, and I'm sure at all fine libraries wherever you want to go.
So I'm here on your website. I'm going to see if I can actually share the page.
All right, look at that.
Revenue Growth Engine audiobook. Okay, so now
there you go. Listen to the book. It's right there.
Right there. I don't think you can actually see what I just did.
You want to maximize your revenue.
There you go. Did you get it? I should get. You can also, by the way, if we want to make this really simple, just text the word revenue to 21,000. You can do that as well.
Oh,
let's just make it simple for our friends listening in.
There we go.
There you go.
Now
Thank you.
You should be seeing, is it there on the screen? It is. So just go to revenuegrowthengine.com/book.
There you go.
Or text book to what?
Text the word revenue to 21,000. But I would love for anyone listening in to go to the site and listen to the book. And if you want to get a paper copy of that, just head over to Amazon, and we'll get you a paper copy. If you want to go to Kindle, it's anywhere you want to go, we'll get it to you. But the idea in my purpose, my purpose is I want to help innovative, purpose-driven companies grow. What's the best way I can do that? Well, when I wrote the book, that was what was in my heart. And so if you go to the front of the book, right here, and I was actually just sending one of these out today, so I noticed this. I hadn't noticed it in a while. I dedicate this book to great businesses that create meaningful jobs and give generously to their communities. I want to help you grow so you can expand your impact. And so this is born out of figuring out what my why is, figuring out what my identity or what my values are. And then, this comes together and gives me the purpose to sit down and write this monstrosity. Writing a book is a lot of work, right, Sean?
It's a lot of work. And the thing that I think you'll agree with is an individual, at least my experience was, I began with one purpose writing my book, and it turned into another purpose, which was a far better purpose for me at least, and for others. Or was your purpose always to help other people? Mine wasn't. I'll admit.
Well, I don't know if it was that from the beginning, but I will say that, this goes back to what we're talking about. When you write stuff down, like writing down your values every day, and when you wrestle through writing and book, when you crank out a book and get that manuscript out there, and we have a friend who's our editor, Kim. Shout out to Kim. And I saw she was on the show here recently. But this is, I think it's the writing of all of this down that begins to clarify things. So yes, definitely a lot of things happened inside me when I was writing this book. And I think, this is another habit that is really helpful, is just this habit of journaling. Yes. And, I don't journal every single day, but I do probably 4 or 5 times a week. And I do it when I'm inspired. And, it's the writing down of that stuff to me. And this isn't for everybody, but when I start to put pen to paper, things start becoming clear. And, I work those things out. So this journey, in essence, of purpose, you're kind of, as an individual, you're drawing it out of your heart. As a company, you're drawing it out of the team as well. And there's no magic bullet here either. Most companies, when it comes to purpose, have, some meaningless meeting. They have some bland corporate values that could be stuck on anything. I'd say, no, work through this over time and keep chewing on these things until it really, really resonates. And
even if the people around you aren't interested in doing it, do it for yourself.
That's right. That's right. And this is where, because once again, if you don't have a personal purpose, if you haven't gotten clarity on that in some level, there's always someone who's going to have an agenda for your life, right? It might be your employer. It might be, it could be a volunteer organization. That there's always someone that's got as we said earlier, it's about saying no. So you can say yes. Thank you, Robert. Amen. You've got to be able to say no heartily, so you can give a yes heartily.
Absolutely. So Darrell, Amy, thank you for being on the show this evening. We've gone almost 45 minutes. You're so easy to talk with, and the topic, although you gave me a quizzical look when we were in the green room, you handled it flawlessly, as I knew you would. Everyone, get in touch with Darrell. He can help you with your revenue, get it grown and turn it into an engine. I just made up that metaphor right there. Check out his website, revenuegrowthengine.com, and text revenue to 21,000 to get your free audio book. I'm going to be doing it after the show because I do a lot of driving, so I'll be listening to it. Always good to have something to listen to. So Darrell, final word is yours. How do you want to send people out into the evening?
I really want to challenge people. If you're kind of like, I don't feel like I've arrived at my purpose yet, keep wrestling through that. If anything, just keep on it, because this journey, and in some ways it's taken me 5 decades to get to where I am today. I feel like the purpose keeps narrowing, but I just want to say, keep fighting for this, because this is so important. So many people are burned out. So many people are disconnected. So many people are stressed out, bored to death. Find your purpose. And I'm not saying it's all roses and candies, but This is going to help you know what you can give your yes to, and help you know what you can say no to. And life is going to be much better when you live it inside your purpose.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That is Litvak Leadership Live for tonight, everyone. Be happy, be well, and be blessed in all you do.